What's up, everybody? Good afternoon. We are here on a Wednesday with not a heck of a lot going on. I don't even think we're going to get a real practice report because the Seahawks don't play until Monday, so I think it's going to go Thursday, Friday, Saturday instead. But there was some interesting stuff that came out of a little news drop earlier today concerning upcoming potential rule changes in the NFL. There were some interesting things said about the brotherly shove. There were some interesting things said about the fair catch kickoff rule. But I wanted to take this video to really talk about this one because the Seahawks are one of the main reasons why this became a topic of discussion earlier this season. And it's led to the point now where we might see a non trivial rule change in the NFL. I'm talking about the hip drop tackle. So, according to various sources and via a quote from Troy Vincent, the hip drop tackle is expected to be either restricted or outlawed from the NFL this offseason. Now, the hip drop tackle has been around for a while, for sure, and Geno Smith is far from the first person to get hit with one. But when we played the New York Giants back in week 4 on Monday Night Football, Geno Smith was tackled via a hip drop, and he got hurt on that play, missed a couple of drives, and arguably has not been the same since. A lot of people would say that that play, that moment, led to a significant downtick in his production. It led to him turning the ball over a lot more, and a lot of people think that that injury is why he's not playing as well as he was last year. So that was a pretty significant moment in the Seahawks season, and Geno Smith very clearly believed that the play was dirty. Pete Carroll came out and said he thought the play was, at the very least, it should have been illegal, but he kind of implied he thought it was dirty. And the bigger conversation around that play became, well, the hip drop tackle should be made illegal. Now, obviously, the hip drop tackle being made illegal doesn't mean it would never happen. Like, we still see horse collar tackles, and the horse collar has been illegal for almost 20 years. So it's not like making that play a flag or anything like that, or making that play outlawed from the NFL would have necessarily prevented the injury to Geno. But I do find this interesting because very quickly this accelerated to a point where it looks like the league is actually going to try to get rid of it. Obviously, Mark Andrews went on IR earlier this year from a hip drop tackle, and we also had, I think it was Tyreek Hill get hit with the hip drop tackle against the Titans. Now, he was okay, but this is something the league wants to crack down on. So, I want to talk about this a little bit because it does kind of, in some way, involve the Seahawks. And when I spoke about this issue on stream with the Hawks Nest right after it happened, I think the literally day after the hip drop hit Geno, and I think some people thought that I was just fully against what Geno and Carroll were saying when they said, "Oh, that was dirty," or "Oh, that should be illegal," or anything like that. I'm not. I wasn't. I never really was 100% against it. I'm very, very torn on it, and I see it from two different perspectives. On the one hand, I'm looking at the hip drop tackle, and it's very similar in effect to the horse collar tackle, right? The horse collar tackle was made illegal because it's considered to be far more dangerous for the player getting tackled than a typical tackle. The rate of injury is just much higher when a player grabs somebody by the back of the neck and rips them down, like Roy Williams used to do. That was kind of his trademark move, and it led to a lot of injuries. I remember T.O. broke his leg on one of those plays once, and that was the main reason why they banned the horse collar. It was dangerous, and the hip drop is very similar in the effect that it creates on the player being tackled. You get pulled backwards, you get bent unnaturally, and I have seen stats that the hip drop tackle has a very, very high rate of causing injuries in the player getting tackled. So I look at something like that and I go, okay, you ban the horse collar because it's dangerous for the player getting tackled. The hip drop tackle is very similar and about as dangerous. Therefore, you're you're obligated to ban the hip drop tackle as well. So that's the perspective that I can see that's like, okay, we need to get rid of this thing. Because it's not like the horse collar tackle was an unfair advantage for the defensive player. It's not like the horse collar tackle was in some way special that they made it illegal. No, they banned it because the effect was bad, not because the actual act of the tackle was bad. They banned it because they decided there are too many injuries happening on that play. We need to get rid of it. So if you're going to get rid of the horse collar for that reason, and the stats say that hip drop tackles cause injuries 25 times as often as the normal tackle, then yeah. So on that level, I do agree with this, but there is a second perspective that I don't want to lose here that I do think needs to be kept in mind when talking about getting rid of things like, say, this. It's getting really hard to play defense in the modern NFL. Where over the last couple of decades, we've seen illegal contact get cracked down on, pass interference get cracked down on. We've seen offenses basically be allowed to run pick plays as long as they're a little subtle about it. We've seen hitting the quarterback basically go away. You can't really hit the quarterback anymore. We've seen all kinds of rules designed to protect defenseless players on offense. We've seen getting rid of the horse collar. We've seen you can't hit a player high. And it's all added up to the point where playing defense is really hard in the modern NFL compared to even 15 years ago. I would say it was completely different. 10 years ago, it was completely different. And I think that needs to be kind of kept in mind here when you're talking about stuff like this. It's really hard to play defense as is. The more stuff you take away from a defender's bag of tricks, the more the harder you're going to make it. And eventually it really is just going to be flag football. It really is just going to be an offensive league with very little defense being played. It's going to be arena football. And I am aware of that. And I do believe that when we do things like this, we're just accelerating that process little by little. We're just making it more of an offensive league. So that's my holdup here. That's the one reason why I didn't like the Dez Bryant rule. Everybody was like, oh, Dez caught it, Dez caught it, Dez caught it. They should change the rule so that's a catch. That's got to be a catch. And I was like, it's already too easy to play receiver in the NFL. Why are we trying to make it easier? Why can't we force the receiver to keep possession of the ball for a quarter second longer? So that's kind of my that's kind of my alternate perspective on this. The defenders aren't trying to injure the opposing player when they do stuff like this. It's just they get caught in a funny position where the hip drop tackle might be their best bet to actually bring a player down, and then they do it. It's not like it's malicious. Like I don't think that when it happened to Geno Smith against the Giants, I don't think it was malicious. I don't think when the Bengals did it to Mark Andrews, it was malicious. It's just you're trying to get the player down, and sometimes you're caught in a position where that's the way to do it. But I do understand that this is something that probably had to be done. I would just caution against doing this kind of stuff over and over and over again. That's why I wasn't super in favor of getting rid of this play when Geno Smith and Pete Carroll sounded off about it in the immediate aftermath. I was aware that, hey, there's been enough rule changes in favor of offense already. But they look like they're going to do it, and Geno Smith's hip drop tackle is going to be kind of one of the things that really started this conversation. So let me know what you guys think down below. I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks.